The crystal glasses chimed against fine china as my sister, Sarah Thompson, hosted yet another of her extravagant family dinners. I sat quietly at the far end of the table, watching my brother-in-law, Marcus, the self-proclaimed business savant, bask in his usual glow of admiration. At 42, he wore his CEO status like a crown, his words dripping with the confidence of someone who had never truly faced failure. And that, he concluded smugly, is how I closed the Anderson merger, biggest deal of the quarter. Some people just understand business at a different level. His gaze flickered toward me, lips curling into what Sarah probably thought was a charming smile. I took another sip of wine, already bracing for the inevitable. These monthly dinners had become his favorite stage for subtle cruelty. Speaking of business, he turned fully to me. Claire, how's that little, what do you call it, consulting thing of yours? It's going well, I replied evenly. Across the table, Sarah straightened slightly, eager for the show to begin. Marcus chuckled, swirling his bourbon. Still working from home, right? When Sarah told me her sister was in business too, I expected something a little more professional. How can anyone take you seriously without a proper office? My mother shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Dad suddenly found his vegetables fascinating. They had long since chosen their side in this family dynamic, and it wasn't mine. My clients seem satisfied, I said, spearing a piece of perfectly cooked salmon. Marcus, of course, had insisted on catering from the city's most exclusive restaurant, another chance to flaunt his wealth. Clients? He let out a sharp laugh. Is that what we're calling the local coffee shops and boutiques now? You know, Claire, if you ever need real business advice. Actually, a deep voice cut through the room, halting Marcus mid-sentence. Her client list is quite impressive. The table fell silent. All eyes turned to Richard Anderson. Yes, the Anderson of the very merger Marcus had been bragging about. He had been seated as the guest of honor, quietly observing the conversation unfold. In fact, Anderson continued, setting down his fork, my daughter's company has been trying to get on Claire's waiting list for months. Her firm is highly selective. A sharp intake of breath from Sarah, a flicker of confusion on Marcus's face. Your daughter's company? Marcus asked, his confidence faltering. Megan Anderson, CEO of Horizon Tech. Richard turned to me with a warm smile. Claire's firm handled the Matthews Group acquisition last year. Brilliant strategy. By the way, when Megan told me who was behind it, I could hardly believe someone so young had orchestrated such a complex deal. But then, real talent doesn't need a corner office to prove itself, does it? Silence, heavy and absolute. The Matthews acquisition, the $400 million deal that had reshaped the tech landscape, the one I had orchestrated from my so-called unprofessional home office. Marcus's face paled. I had no idea. Obviously, I murmured, allowing myself a small smile. More wine, anyone? Sarah's grip tightened around her glass. My mother sat frozen, mouth slightly open. Dad was staring at me as if seeing me for the first time. CLA, Marcus started, his tone edging towards something almost conciliatory. Why didn't you ever mention that? I set my wine glass down carefully. That I handle major corporate acquisitions? That my little consulting thing advises Fortune 500 companies? I tilted my head. You never asked. Marcus, you were too busy telling everyone how successful you are. Richard chuckled. Speaking of successes, Claire, I hope you'll consider taking Horizon Tech on as a client. Megan's been quite persistent about working with you. Of course, Marcus jumped in. Anything for family. I'm sure Claire would be happy to. I'm afraid my schedule is quite full. I interrupted smoothly. But Mr. Anderson, tell Megan to have her team send over the proposal. I'll review it personally. Marcus flushed a deep red. The Anderson merger, the so-called biggest deal of his quarter, was worth less than half of what I had handled for Matthews. And now, his golden connection to Richard Anderson sat across the table, barely acknowledging him while speaking to me with clear respect. Sarah finally found her voice, though it trembled slightly. Claire, why didn't you tell us all these years? I leaned back, a slow smile playing on my lips. Tell you what, Sarah? That while you and Marcus were busy mocking my little business. The crystal glasses clinked against fine china. But the real sound of the night was silence, the heavy, stunned kind that settled over the table like a thick fog. I met Marcus's wide-eyed stare, letting my words sink in. I was building one of the most respected consulting firms in the industry. That home office you love to ridicule? It has closed deals worth billions. I dabbed my lips with my linen napkin and placed it neatly beside my plate. Tell me, Marcus, would you have believed me? Or would you have just found another way to diminish my success? The truth hung between us, undeniable. They wouldn't have believed me. They had been too invested in their chosen narrative, Marcus, the family's golden boy, the business genius, and me, the struggling younger sister who never quite measured up. Sarah shook her head, still processing. But your clothes. She gestured weakly at my simple black dress. Your car. You live in that small house. Because I don't need to prove anything to anyone, I said simply. Success speaks for itself. It doesn't need designer labels or luxury cars to be real. Across the table, Richard Anderson nodded approvingly. That's precisely why your reputation in the industry is so sterling, Claire. No flash, all substance. The exact opposite of. He let his gaze flicker to Marcus before taking another sip of wine. Marcus's hand tightened around his bourbon glass. His perfectly curated image was crumbling before him, and with it, his standing in this family. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. I turned to Richard, ignoring Marcus's desperate attempts to regain control. Mr. Anderson, I'd love to hear more about Horizon Tech's expansion plans. Perhaps over dinner next week? The new French restaurant on 5th, Marcus blurted, trying to wedge himself back into the conversation. I'm a member there. I smiled. Actually, I own it. One of my small side investments. Nothing like running a major corporation. Of course, but it turns a nice profit. Sarah gasped. The restaurant Marcus had spent months trying to get a membership to, the one he bragged about dining at, had been mine all along. Her wine glass slipped from her fingers, staining the pristine tablecloth red. But for once, she didn't rush to clean it up. She was too busy staring at me, really seeing me, for the first time in years. I stood, smoothing my dress. The thing about success, I said, is that it doesn't need an audience to be real. While you were all busy celebrating Marcus's latest promotion or Sarah's country club membership, I was building something lasting, something real. I picked up my leather handbag, not designer, but handcrafted by an artisan I had helped launch a business. Thank you for dinner, Sarah. Mr. Anderson, I'll have my office contact you about that dinner next week. As I walked toward the door, Marcus's voice, strained, desperate, called after me. Claire, wait, perhaps we should discuss. Discuss what? I turned slightly, my voice smooth, unbothered. How you spent years mocking my business. How you treated me like a failure because I didn't broadcast my success. Or maybe how you're suddenly interested in my little consulting thing now that you know who my clients are? Silence. Sarah had sunk back in her chair, her perfect dinner party in ruins. Our parents were looking anywhere but at me, and Marcus. Marcus looked like a man watching his empire crumble. Send me the bill, Sarah, I said over my shoulder. I know how much Marcus hates spending money on family charity cases. The door clicked shut behind me, leaving them to digest more than their expensive catered meal. Because what they didn't know, what Marcus was about to find out, was that his company's upcoming merger, the one he had been counting on to cement his position as CEO, was about to face an unexpected complication. One that had everything to do with me. The morning after the dinner party, my phone exploded with notifications. Texts from Sarah, voicemails from Marcus, even emails from my parents, all suddenly desperate to clear up any misunderstandings. I smiled, remembering the look on Marcus's face when Richard Anderson had revealed who I really was. But I wasn't interested in their newfound appreciation. I had a merger to stop. Claire, my assistant's voice came through my intercom. Mr. Anderson is on line 1. I picked up the phone, settling into my ergonomic chair. My little home office might not have impressed Marcus, but its technology rivaled any corporate headquarters. Richard, good morning. Claire, his warm voice filled the line. I must say, dinner last night was enlightening. Your brother-in-law seems to be having quite the morning. He's been trying to reach me since dawn. I could imagine. Marcus's entire career hinged on this merger, the one he had been bragging about for months. Has he figured it out yet? I asked, pulling up the merger documents on my triple monitors. Not yet, Richard chuckled, though he might want to take a closer look at who's been quietly buying shares in his company over the past 6 months. Ah, yes, the investment firm that had been acquiring a significant stake in Marcus's company. The one operating through a series of shell companies. The one that, through a complex web of corporations, belonged to me. Claire. Sarah's name flashed on my phone again. I declined the call. Your sister seems persistent, Richard observed. They all are, I said lightly, now that they know. I signed off on another document, watching as my ownership percentage ticked up another fraction. Amazing how success changes people's perspectives. And the next few days? They were about to get very interesting. Marcus's world was unraveling. The once confident CEO, always so sure of his place, was now a symphony of panic. I could almost hear the gears grinding in his head as he frantically dug into the merger details, probably hoping to impress me with his business acumen. Instead, he found something terrifying. His company was being systematically purchased by an unknown entity. You have to help me. He cornered me outside my favorite coffee shop, not coincidentally, one of my first consulting clients. Claire, whatever bad blood there is between us, this is my career we're talking about. I took a slow sip of my artisanal latte. Funny, last month, when you mocked me for helping this place expand, it was just a little coffee shop. I was wrong, okay? He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, messing it up in a way Sarah would have hated. I was arrogant and stupid. But please, if this merger falls through, then what, Marcus? I tilted my head. You'll have to work your way up like everyone else? Start something from scratch? Build a business without riding on your family name? His face paled. We both knew the truth. He had never built anything himself. His CEO position had come through connections, not competence, the same connections he had used to belittle me at every opportunity. My phone buzzed. A notification from my legal team. Another block of shares acquired. We were getting close. The board meeting is next week, Marcus said desperately. They're expecting me to present the merger details, but this unknown buyer, if they gain controlling interest, then I'll be answerable to them. I smiled. Imagine that. The great Marcus Thompson, having to justify his business decisions to someone else. Realization dawned in his eyes, slow and painful. Claire. The buyer, it's... My phone buzzed again. A text from Richard Anderson. Megan's team just sent over the Horizon Tech proposal. Impressive plans. Shame about Marcus's company. They would have made a good partner if their leadership was different. I turned the screen toward him, watching as the last pieces clicked into place. You're going to destroy everything I've built, he whispered. No, Marcus, I said calmly. I'm going to show you what real business looks like. I stood, smoothing my simple but immaculately tailored dress. The board meeting is at 2 p.m. next Thursday, correct? Don't worry about preparing anything. I'll be handling the presentation. The week that followed was chaos. Sarah showed up at my house twice, begging me to reconsider. He's family, she pleaded, as if she hadn't spent years treating me like an embarrassment. My parents tried next. Think about what this will do to the family name, Dad argued. The same family name that hadn't stopped them from laughing at Marcus's jokes about my cute little business. But the real satisfaction came at the board meeting. I walked into the room Marcus had dominated for so long and took my seat at the head of the table. The other board members, old men who had never questioned Marcus's leadership, stared in confusion. I let the silence stretch. Then, smoothly, I began. Gentlemen, I represent Quantum Ventures, the investment firm that now holds a controlling interest in this company. We've reviewed the proposed merger extensively, and we have some concerns about the current leadership strategy. For the next hour, I methodically laid out every mistake Marcus had made. Every rushed decision. Every missed opportunity. Every instance where he had chosen flash over substance. The board members' expressions shifted, from confusion to concern to outright alarm. Therefore, I concluded, our first act as majority shareholder will be to recommend new leadership. Someone who understands that real business success isn't about corner offices or country club memberships, it's about solid strategy, careful planning, and actual results. Marcus shot up from his chair, face red. You can't do this. I built this company. Did you? I pulled out a folder. Because our analysis shows that company value has actually decreased under your leadership. The only thing keeping your position secure was this merger, a merger that, as of this morning, is no longer happening. The boardroom erupted into chaos. Marcus tried to speak, but his voice was drowned out by angry shareholders demanding explanations. I sat back, watching years of his carefully constructed facade crumble. Oh, and Marcus, I added as he headed for the door, you might want to start looking for a new country club membership. The one you have is about to be discontinued. The aftermath was everything I had planned for. Marcus was forced to resign, his reputation in tatters. Sarah's social circle, the same one she had used to mock my simple lifestyle, suddenly discovered that the sister they dismissed was now controlling one of the city's largest companies. My parents called a family meeting, probably hoping to salvage something from the wreckage. I attended out of curiosity. You've made your point, Mom said, her voice trembling. Surely we can fix this. As a family. I looked around the table. Marcus, without his designer suit and corporate swagger. Sarah, her perfect image tarnished by association. My parents, finally forced to acknowledge that their golden couple wasn't so golden after all. Fix what? I asked calmly. I simply did business. Isn't that what Marcus always wanted? For me to understand real business? But you destroyed him, Sarah protested. His career, his reputation. No, I corrected her. His arrogance destroyed him. His need to diminish others to feel important. I just showed everyone what was already there. I stood, gathering my things. The company will do better under new leadership. The shareholders will be happier. And Marcus? Well, I hear there's good money in running a home-based business. If you can handle working without a proper office, that is. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. 5 years later, the company had doubled in value under new leadership. I had merged it with Horizon Tech, creating one of the largest tech consultancies in the country. Marcus had tried starting his own firm, but without his corporate title and family connections, he quickly discovered that success required more than a corner office and an expensive suit. Sarah still hosted family dinners, though they were considerably less grand now. Sometimes, when I attended, I caught Marcus staring at my simple clothes and modest lifestyle with new understanding. He had finally learned what I had known all along. Real success doesn't need to announce itself. The small home office where I had built my empire remained unchanged. But now, on its wall, hung a framed photo from that last board meeting. Marcus's face, frozen in shock as he realized the sister-in-law he had dismissed had orchestrated his downfall. A masterpiece of karmic justice. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't just success. It's success they never saw coming. And as for me? I still prefer working from home. Still drive my reliable car. Still live in my comfortable but modest house. But now, when Marcus passes me in his much-reduced circumstances, he understands a fundamental truth. True power isn't in what you show. It's in what you know. And I had known all along exactly what I was building.